Good evening, everyone. Demon Phil, calling from Moore, New Jersey, coming at you with another interview tonight, and this one's going to be fun as well. I've definitely been looking forward to it, but before we get going, I'm going to take a minute or two here to go ahead and see who else needs to jump in, share this thing out, get some people involved, get them to come in here. We have got some interesting things to cover tonight to kind of go through. You're going to learn some more about Tom Hutchison tonight, what he does, company, books, collectibles, all kinds of fun stuff. We're just going to go through an entire list here. So we're just taking a minute to go ahead and see who else we got coming up in. If you are coming in, please share this out so we can make sure and get as many people to come in here as possible and get the word out. For those of you that are here, thank you for showing up. We hope you're going to have fun with this. First up in the comments is Russell. How did I not know? What's up, Russell? Thanks for being here, buddy. All right, one more minute, and we're going to go ahead and hit this thing. Hope everyone has had a great evening, has had a good day on top of that, and is ready to hit the ground running tomorrow as well. What's up, Rob? Oh, it's going to be fun with Russell, I can already tell. Somebody make sure and go ahead and tag Steph. I know I'm going to regret that later, but let's get Steph in here as well. I have got Heather on the other side with comments. She's going to be helping out as well. So she is the one saying hello from over there. All right. Well, you know what? Let's not make this all about me being up on here because I am just not that pretty to be up here the entire time. So let me tell you about tonight. Tonight, I am actually going to be able to interview Tom Hutchison of Big Dog Inc. I have been looking forward to this for quite some time because I've actually been a part of the doghouse for a little while and definitely enjoyed that. And if you don't know what the doghouse is, stay tuned because we're definitely going to be going into that one as well. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring him up. Critter's daddy himself, Tom Hutchison. What's up,
Phil,
Tom?
what's
Thanks for
up,
being
man?
here.
Of course. Happy to do it.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate taking your time out for this. Yeah, we've definitely been looking forward to this. This is, I wanted to time this out for a reason, and we're going to get into that here in just a moment. But Tom, you have a few hats that you wear, we'll put it that way. From what I have gathered, publisher, editor, writer, and avid collector. And of course, the cat ears.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I missed in there of hats that you're wearing?
No, those are my podcast ears. I do a podcast as well called Another Page Turner with Stephanie Menard every other Tuesday. So I wear those when we do the podcast. It's but basically Big Dog outside of artist and colorist and inker and letterer and editor, my editor. Basically everything else is me. So yeah, it's many hats. And
you have no problem with that because from what I've seen, you've been incredibly busy wearing all those hats and getting around, which is a great thing. Now, for those who don't know who you are, and I don't know why that would be, but just in case, can you go ahead and tell us who you are, what you do, and where to find you?
Sure. Tom Hutchison, founder, publisher, writer, art director, awesome podcast guy for Big Dog Inc. We are celebrating our 10-year anniversary inauspiciously, of course. No cons to be out jetting around for, but honestly, that's less hats to wear this year, which is fine. We are here on Facebook, of course. You can find us at Big Dog Inc. There's a fan page here on Twitter and Instagram. It is BDI Comics. You can friend me up personally, of course, Tom Hutchison. And then I do a live show on the Comic Book Shopping Network, CBSN, here on Facebook as well, every Wednesday night-ish, from 10 to 12. We do, live sales of our books. We talk about the Kickstarters. We, shoot the breeze and have a good time. But yeah, that's the basics.
All right. Now, let me go ahead and ask you, How did you get your start in this industry?
uh, uh, by accident, I guess, is the truth of it. I've been collecting comics, God, I don't know, the late 70s, and retail. I managed a store, I owned a store, all of that. As all that was going on, I was tinkering around in the background with creating comics in some way, shape, or form. Originally, I wanted to be an artist, so I was drawing, and realized that that was not going to be my way in. And so I fell back to the writing side of it. And I started writing scripts, just kind of trying to figure out how you do this, what are the requirements, so on and so forth. And started writing Critter first, Penny for Your Soul second. As I was working on those things, I of course had my 9-to-5 job and doing all that kind of stuff. But that happened right as I don't know, what is it, 2008-ish, 9-ish, when the housing market collapsed and everything went, into the pot. I lost that job and I was like, well, okay, I've been doing this comic thing a little bit. I think I have something that I can at least bring to market. Let me see if I can do this before I go run down to Walmart and get a, cashier job or whatever. And that's what I've been doing now for 10 years is making comics. Now I've had jobs along the way still. I've worked at comic book stores and so on. Jesse James Comics out in Arizona. I was running his store alongside with him and Dave out there for a few years and so on. But, at least 75% of my time over the last 10 years has been just creating comics.
And it is definitely paying off for you, because that actually brings us up into our next subject here, which is kind of the big one, because anybody who was coming in here saw the background that I had up there, which is Princesses versus Zombies, which is a small Kickstarter that you got going right now. Just a tiny thing, right?
Yeah, just a little. It's it was supposed to be little, and it's grown into a monster. We started last Saturday, so we're in week 1. We have more backers than we've ever had in a week. We have more pledge amount than we've ever had in a week. The whole campaign has just gone bonkers, and that's awesome. It's great. But it's been exhausting as well. I almost didn't even do a Doghouse show on Wednesday because I was so overwhelmed with everything to do. But no, it's been great. So, for those that have already backed it, thank you. You are making Big Dog Inc. history right now with this new little project.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very, very small, very small. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, there was something said about it's actually trending to become your biggest one that you've had thus far.
Yeah, we're already over pace on Penny for Your Soul 7, which was our best ever. Now, this campaign is shorter by about 9 days, but we are well ahead at minimum. Even if we were to stop, Penny for Your Soul at 25 days and see where those numbers were, we are pacing to be ahead of those numbers for sure. And it may, for all we know, at 400 backers in 1 week, for all we know, we could be looking at our first, 600 or 700 backer campaign.
That is very true. And as far as the campaign itself, for those people that aren't aware of what you've got going on with that, if you can kind of give a brief overlay of, what you're offering on there, what it's about, that kind of thing.
Yeah, basically so over the years of my writing, you get asked a lot of questions about writing, about genre, and all kinds of stuff. And so for many years, I kept getting, we talk about monsters and I do a horror book called Ursa Minor and so on, werewolves and vampires. And people were like, so you're going to write a zombie book? And I was like, no, I don't understand zombies. I don't like zombies. I have no connection to the genre. There are some movies that I like that I think are cool, but as a whole, I'm a horror guy, but I'm not a zombie guy. And so the question came about, okay, well, if you were to write a zombie book, how would you do it? What would your zombie book be? And I was like, God, fine, hell if I know. But when those questions land and I don't have an answer for them, that's when the wheels start to turn. And so at some point a few years ago, it came up again when we think we've traced this back to Baltimore Comic-Con. We believe that that is the origin of this. It was myself, Jesse Wichman, the Buchanans, friends of ours. We were at Hooters at the Inner Harbor, and it came up again as, how would you write a zombie book? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, it would have to be something so weird and just ridiculous that it would, you know, catch my attention. Like, I don't know if it was like princesses versus zombies. Like literally, that's how it happened. And then Jesse Wichman was there, and of course, the hot wings were flowing, and all of a sudden, princesses versus zombies was a thing in the cloud. And it just kind of it just hung there, like a lot of these projects do. I've had Lights Camera Jungle was in the back of my head, Kaiju Epic was in the back of my head, and now Princesses versus Zombies is in the back of my head. And so I started to develop this thing. And for those that know me, they know that I don't write anything in the way that you expect it to be written. You may understand the genre, you may think you know what this story is, but at the end of the day, if I've done my job right, you should come away with it with a, well, I didn't see that coming. And because that's my job. So with Princesses versus Zombies, initially it was going to be, and I still think that this might have worked, but not to the level that we're doing now. It was originally going to be literally a fantasy story with the princesses, Snow White, Cinderella, and so on, with zombies in the fairy kingdoms. Like that was the original thought process for it. But as I started to write it, I was like, this sucks. I don't like any part of this fairy tale world. We've done fairy tale worlds to death, princesses and fairy tale worlds. I was like, I don't want any part of this. And so I shifted it so that we could play off of the cliche tropes of modern day zombie stuff, but using princesses within the context, again, of the cliche trope of sexy princesses. You know, so it became Halloween. And Halloween, and we have these women who are doing the sexy princess thing with their basic costumes. And as this is happening, the zombie apocalypse begins to rise. We are right at the beginning of our zombie apocalypse. So that is the gist of it. We've got 4 characters that are all 180 degrees different from each other. And that's how you have to have a good zombie story, because the reality is that the zombies almost don't matter in zombie stories. If you think about any zombie story you've ever watched or read, you can take the zombies out and put in a lion or a velociraptor or a crocodile or whatever it is that chases down the people and eats them. And you get almost the same story. Now, granted, the zombies can turn people into other zombies, so you have that. But ultimately, you have people running from zombies and screaming and getting eaten. So how do you make that interesting? You make it interesting with interesting characters, which I think is where a lot of zombie stuff kind of falls on its face.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I mean, whatever it is, it's working, because you're just crashing records left and right on your end on that side, and everybody's happy with everything that's going on with it. Plus, you keep adding a little more. You're always the master of like teasing stuff out there. So last night there was a tease cover that came out, and it went ballistic. I mean, there were people left and right just throwing everything trying to get this cover.
Yep.
And I think we have the artist in here, if I'm not mistaken, somebody named Steph Wilson. I heard she did great work.
Some guy. Yeah, I have. I mean, to be honest, I've coined the phrase myself, but it's become a thing. I am the burlesque of comic book marketing. I will always throw the teasers out. I am never just a full Monty guy. I am always we're going to show you this, and then that's all you get, and then it comes around, and you know, people are like, oh my god, that's great. So yes, you always get burlesque marketing from Big Dog Inc. Keeps it fun, keeps it exciting, and then when you get the big reveal, you get that excitement level.
Yeah, and it definitely works, because you gave the teases, and of course Steph is very good on doing the teases as well on his end.
Yep, he gets it.
And then all of a sudden you bust out with it, and you're like, and by the way, this is only this weekend for this particular cover. So whenever they're gone, they're gone.
Yep.
And then you went a step further, because you actually had a video just a while ago where you got some merchandise in from Penny for Your Soul and from Scheherazade. And you basically said, if you backed it and you got these things, then you're going to be getting it. That's good, great, and wonderful. But if you didn't, there is no chance of getting these.
Nope.
And I
Or
like that
very
you're
small.
that straightforward. Exactly. Well, I like that you're that straightforward and going ahead and letting everybody know, because that way we're not looking at 2 million copies of this thing out there and it's like, okay, I want to get it, and it's not worth anything, going down the road for the actual collectors, or worse yet, just being able to get it that easy. The
Yep.
hunt is a lot of what makes this the best part. And that's why I enjoy being in the doghouse with you, because you make the doghouse. And I'm going to kind of segue into that a little bit. The doghouse, I have noticed the books are great. Don't get me wrong. The books are phenomenal, but the fans, if you can tell us a little bit about your interaction with the fans in there, because we have a few of them in here right now that are barking a lot on the side.
Yeah, it's the doghouse was, I didn't know, again, it was one of these things where I didn't know what it was going to be. Comic Book Shopping Network had existed for about a year or so prior to my getting involved. Jesse James, Christione invited me to be part of it, and we started last January. So we've been doing this for a little over a year. And I had helped him run his show many times. So I kind of had an idea of how to do it. But because I'm not selling Marvel and DC and Image and all that kind of stuff, my show had to be different somehow. I'm still not exactly sure how different it is, but it's definitely something where we have connected with the existing fans, and at the same time we've become, I don't know, cool. for lack of a better term, we've just become cool, and people have drifted into the room that don't know what the hell Big Dog is. They've never heard any of our books, and but just because of the consistency of it, it's just like, oh, the doghouse, oh, the doghouse, oh, the doghouse, oh, the doghouse. We get people that kind of just leak in. Here's another guy, here's another guy, here's another guy. And so we've grown this group from, a key, 10, 15, 20 people into what is now a easily regular 20 to 30 people every week. But in the whole grand scheme of the fan base, it's 50, 60, 70 people. They may not be there every week, but they'll come in a couple of times a month and see what's going on. And we just try and keep it light. I mean, I tell them what's going on with me, with the books, with the writing. We sell some books. I try to, we talk about value on these books. I don't sell books because of like value. I'm not sitting here going, it's $100. But I do tell them that it's like, I tell them like, look, if you guys go on eBay, which is basically your liquid value, sales platform, you're looking at Big Dog books just going through the roof on price. And so on the doghouse, we try and combat that a little bit, because I do have some stock of these things. So while there may be dudes selling stuff for like $50 on eBay, maybe we can sell it for 30 and save people a little money. But at the same time, I remind them nothing is forever. Everything even I have is finite. I mean, we make 200 copies of something. When they're gone, they're gone. And you can watch our books just progressively increase in price, whether it's because of an artist or because of the book itself. Different things are driving people to our books. But as our viewership grows, even the smaller books, just like the regular A and B covers, even those things just dry up and they're gone. And even in the grand scheme of when we were printing through Diamond, maybe there was a couple thousand of those, 2,000-3,000 of those A and B covers. That's nothing. When you start to think about things like, remember The Walking Dead, a low print run, they called that a low print run for The Walking Dead. Number one was like 10,000 units. We're like 2, 3, 4, 5,000 units. So our stuff is gone, and we have drive behind it. And you can watch people come find our books, and the prices start to drive up. And that's what we talk about on the show. It's like, guys, you got to get this stuff before it's gone, which went to that foil debut I did today, because again, all of those foils that I showed were all exclusive to the campaigns. So when the campaign's over, we get a number, and that's what we print, and that's it. So, the moral of the story is our stuff is some of the most limited on the planet, in the industry. And we have a growing fan base that really hasn't even caught up to the fact that we're back, because again, we used to sell 2, 3, 4, 5,000 units at retail and stores. Those people don't even know we're doing this anymore because they went to stores.
Right.
So if all of a sudden those 1,000 odd people are like, oh crap, Big Dog's on Kickstarter, well, it's going to get bananas.
Exactly. And it's definitely, as far as the doghouse is concerned, I mean, like I said, we've got a lot of them in here that are talking right now, and they're trying to get more of the members in, and I thank you for doing that, everybody that's in here. And I am seeing a lot of the comments, in case you can't tell, with me over here trying to keep from busting out laughing, because I'm seeing a lot of good stuff going through. And that kind of brings me up to my next point here is, I'm not going to say that I'm not one of them. I can neither confirm nor deny, but you have some rowdy members that are in there every once in a while. And I kind of attune us to like the kids in class, and you're the principal, who every once in a while you have to be like, okay, we got to get back to the books over here. And it's funny because we'll start whispering to each other where we reply in private, but you still see everything. And it's hilarious because I'm curious as to how you keep it together for most cases, because I know you're seeing everything we put on there.
It's fine. I mean, that's the whole thing, is it's not like we did a few weeks ago, the Doghouse. I mean, it's a sales show, but it's also just a community show. I mean, we just hang out. Sometimes we just do casual night. We just hang out, and I sell like, damaged books for like $5, and we just have a good time. A couple of weeks ago, I just sat down on the floor with my collection and started showing you guys what I collected. It's not just simply, I'm not up here like a used car salesman, like, hey, look at those boobs, buy those things. Like, that's not what we do. We just have fun. We sell art. We talk about art. We talk about story. We remind people that, everything is finite. If you don't have it, move quickly. But that's it. Everything else is we're just having fun. And if you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to be doing it for long, because what's the point? No one wants to come hang out with you if you're not having a good time.
Exactly. Now, bringing up another question to you. What have you found to be your biggest challenges as a publisher?
Getting the retailers to give a damn. Fair warning, I am unfiltered. I am opinionated. So if any retailers are watching this, understand that I know there are stores that support independent books in a large scale. But those stores are few and far between. And so the hardest part is just getting a retailer to even pay attention to your product. I had a guy once debating if I should even, I'll let him stay nameless. I went into his store just to pitch books, just to say, hey, here's what we do. This is Big Dog, blah, blah, blah. He was like, well, you got to be in Diamond for me to, no problem. We've been in Diamond for a year. No, that's not a problem. Okay. Well, just send me some PDFs of your stuff. Well, I got books right in the car. I'll go outside. I'll leave you with some books. You can actually see them, feel them. We do good paper. No. That doesn't work for me. I need you to email me PDFs of your stuff. I'm like, really? You want a PDF of a comic book? You're a retail store selling paper comics 2 feet from me, and you don't want to take a paper comic and put it in your office? You want a digital PDF that you can see what I do? You're a moron. And so that's the hard part. And there's lots of stores that are like, yeah, we buy like 2 copies because our pull box buyers want them, which is great. You're taking care of your customers. But dude, if you've got 2 guys that are already buying it, you probably have a couple more. Put a couple on the shelf, buddy. But and I understand there's budget, there's space. Marvel and DC take up so much room and budget. I mean, I get it. But if you as a retailer are just going to focus on Marvel and DC, like, every other store on the planet, then you're here forever. There's no growth for you because you have no product base that's going to drive people to your store, because you have the same thing that everybody else in town has. So do yourself a favor, try some indie stuff. This is not a buy every indie book rant, by the way, but it is a do some homework, understand who these guys are, what they do. They may be there's definitely segments of the country where different publishers are more popular than others. And I get that too. But if they have a fan base somewhere, if they're popular in the Midwest and you're in California, maybe just give it a try. It's not going to break your bank. You know, half the books that you buy from Marvel and DC end up in your dollar bin anyway. So just give it a shot. That was a lot of this. I told you I'll do some rants every now and then.
It's not a problem. Now that kind of brings up a question, kind of building up into that, because current events being what they are, outdoors and all.
Yeah.
Of course, we are reshaping our new normal, because if you think we're going back to absolute normal the way that it was, that is a fantasy, absolute fantasy.
Normal is over.
Exactly. So my question is, or kind of a comment, then I'll go into a question. Todd McFarlane.
Yep.
He went out there and he said, exactly, because he went out there and he said, I have a plan. This is the plan that I would go with on this, and this is how I would fix things. So my question on top of that is, what would be Tom's plan?
Well, Todd had an idea. Todd had an outline of some things. What's interesting is that the people that read Todd's outline either fall into one of two categories. They either look at it as gospel because it's Todd, or they look at it as he didn't say shit. And neither of them are right, because in the middle is the truth. In the middle is almost always the truth. Todd had good ideas. He had thought processes of things that make sense, but it was not a full plan. It was just sort of a, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. The cool part about Todd is, and his outline was that while he did play on the idea of, let's do this crossover thing if it helps the industry, which incidentally, it doesn't. Hype machines hype you up for a few months and then it's gone. Hype machines do not save your industry. They can help you short term, but they are not the long-term solution. But here's what Todd said in addition to the Spider-Man Spawn crossover. He took that further to be a crossover scenario with multiple publishers, and doing it in a way that allowed individual publishers to get a spotlight each time that they did it, because they're all part of a larger whole. But maybe it's Valiant in March, maybe it's Big Dog in April, maybe it's Scout Comics in June, whatever it is. That's the part that people just glossed right over, because that's exactly what you need to do to get small press and independent publishers in the eyeballs of people that have not seen them before. Who cares if Spawn and Spider-Man crossover? We both know who they are. Let's do a Spawn Joan of Arc crossover. What? let's do an Exo Man-O-War and Critter crossover. What is that? What are these things? That's where he was going with this, that actually has true value to it. It's really weird. If you go back to the 90s and you look at the explosion of indies, you'll see that all of these indie guys, Image, Valiant, oh my God, I'm going to blank on all of these names now. There was Defiant Comics, there was, I don't know, whatever. All of these guys, they came out with their own stuff, but they also all knew, including Image, Valiant, Marvel, they all understood that they all would gain value by working together. Hence Deathmate, which was a disaster because they couldn't get the damn book out on time. But it put Valiant in the eyeballs of Image collectors. It put Image in the eyeballs of Valiant collectors, and so on and so on. Even the Image guys said, yeah, we'll go back to Marvel. Why? Because it'll put more eyeballs on what we're doing at Image. So the crossover idea is brilliant, but it has to be done in a way that it isn't just for the sake of it. Marvel versus DC crossover. Who cares? That's 6 months and you're done. What's next? Tell me what's after the Marvel DC crossover. That's the plan.
Right. And you've got so many different characters in your pool to go ahead and pull from over there, and you're coming up with new characters as well, which we'll be getting into shorter or later on in here. But you have that ability to go ahead and say, if you want to go ahead and do a crossover, I'll give you one over here. We'll go ahead and do a crossover. We'll do this. But it's a matter of changing that mindset to where it's no longer mainstream. It is no longer A and B. You have to look closer to Z on this one. I mean, we're so far out on the normal that we're creating on this. We have to go to whatever we can get to get some exposure out there, and that is the truth on that.
Yeah.
And I can see how you're pushing limits on that, but you're pushing limits, but still keeping your integrity intact.
Well, you have to keep moving forward. And that's where kind of Marvel and DC kind of run into walls, because you've got these characters that have existed for 50, 60 years. They've been reinterpreted and reimagined and rebooted and whatever. And that's the advantage to independent books and creator-owned stuff, because there isn't this 50-year history of the book for people to have to go wading through. You can just start, and here's a new thing. If Marvel and DC had just maintained their numbering, if X-Men was just 600, 700, 800, whatever, and not start, stop, I think the industry would be in a little bit better position, because it would all kind of make sense. You would have these baseline. I've always said that things like the X-Men, the Avengers, whatever, Justice League, should always be the trunk of the tree. From there, you can spin off whatever branch you want and do whatever miniseries you want to do. But the trunk of the tree should always be growing, always. And it should never go away. And they took the trunk of the tree away from everything. And they've even come back to those numbers. You know, Wonder Woman 700 and Flash 700 and Superman 1000 and all that. They've come back to those old numbers. So they understand. They understand the value. They just haven't quite figured out why it's of value. But you know, that's where I would go. That's the first thing that I would do. Is if I was at Marvel or DC, I would put everything back to those numbers, and I would just grow that tree trunk, and then just start growing your branches off that tree trunk.
I mean, that is very true. And I mean, it does make a lot of sense on there, because you see how the industry is now, and you can see where it's actually, for lack of a better term, splintered off from
very
that.
splintered,
and they started putting more focus on, I want to have 50, covers over here that have nothing to do with that actual even character or book or anything. And then we're going to go ahead and start doing tie-ins. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, you're going to make money off of that, but you're going to lose fans because we can't keep up.
everything is short-sighted, and there's no reverse engineering to it. That used to be, you would buy X-Men 201 and you'd be like, oh, that's cool. Let me go find a 200. Let me find a 199. Now I challenge you. If you come in and you're reading House of X or Power of X, I challenge you to figure out what came first, what came before that, and start to work your way backwards. It's a labyrinth of hell. And now, granted, the comic book publishers, Marvel and DC, they don't care, because they don't see any money off of back issue sales. They'll make their trade paperbacks and so on and do that. But even then, there's no volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And that hurts. That hurts your retailers. That hurts your buyers who want to be completists and all that kind of stuff. And it just hurts. They're just doing it wrong.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. And
even when we do miniseries of like Penny for Your Soul, when we trade paperback it's volume 1, 2, 3, 4. They all have their own individual names, and they're all 1 through 7, 1 through 7, 1 through 7. But it's very easy to figure out 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you read it. You're done.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's very true, because somebody like me who's trying to get caught up in that, that's why I got them the way that I did, as best I could, to go ahead and keep up with the story, because I am a little bit further behind. So I don't want to read number 4 before I have a chance to read 1 through 3, because then I'm kind of thrown off. But I have noticed that I do have, I believe it's number 3, and it reads fine by itself. I mean, yeah, you want the backstory just to kind of fill in the blanks on there. But as far as just flipping through it and reading it, it's actually a very good standalone story. And that's what I like about it, is you don't have to go back going, oh my gosh, I've got to have all the tie-ins. I got to have everything that goes along with this. Yeah. You don't have to.
Yeah. Well, that's the way that I do stuff. I mean, everything is written so that if you're picking up one of the trades, you'll be able to understand what's going on. If you're not writing like that, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you never know when somebody's going to start on one of your issues. Now, to me, it's more important for the volumes than a specific issue. Like, there used to be that whole thought process of you never know what somebody's first comic book is going to be. So you have to make sure that every issue tells the audience what happened previously in the, it's like, no, that's horse crap. You're wasting time, because the people that are reading the book are bored, and they don't want to waste 2 or 3 pages on recap. But when you get to the trade paperback level, that needs to be, even if you're coming in at 15 to 20, that needs to be a readable story. And then they'll be like, oh, well, that was cool. Let me go get volume 3, volume 2, volume 1, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, you only have one shot to go ahead and make a first impression. So if you're going to make a decent impression, it's going to be like, it's a good story, but I could do without it. Yeah. Or it's going to be one of those where, like you said, it leaves the questions and everything that's in your mind going, wait a minute, where was he going with this? I don't understand how this character played so big of a role in this, but they're, no longer playing a role at the end. What's going on? So you want to go back and find out at that point.
Yeah. Well, I bought, I was collecting comics back in the day. So ElfQuest was like a thing that I kept seeing at stores. And I didn't know what the hell it was because I was buying Marvel and DC. I'm like, what is ElfQuest? And then finally they put out these big trade paperbacks that were in color because they were black and white too. So I was not really into black and white art back then. But when the trades came out and they were colored, I was very interested, and I actually bought volume 4 first, like on purpose. I bought volume 4 first. And then I liked it so much that I went backwards and got the rest of them. So you can absolutely set yourself up so that a volume of any kind can create a love for whatever the story is, and then make people go backwards and forwards depending on how they find the product.
And that kind of brings up the next question on here that I want to ask you is, what has been your biggest accomplishment as a writer?
That I'm still working somehow, probably. Because again, I've told people this before. I all but failed English. I don't know how I'm a writer for a living. I really don't understand it. I think I got very lucky just because I like comics and not books. Like if I was a book nerd and I had to learn how to really write like a book, I would not be doing this. But because comics are so unique in the way that they work, with the dialogue being the primary element of the story, I know how to write dialogue. I know how to write voices that sound real versus sounding like Data from Star Trek. So I think that that's it. I mean, the fact that I've been doing this for 10 years as essentially my job, that's crazy. That's crazy. And it's funny because I know that the stuff that I did when I started is not great. And so when people find me for the first time, they're like, oh, where's volume 1? I'm like, can you start on 4 and work your way backwards and just know that I got better as things, but it doesn't work that way. So you give them number 1. But the plus side of that is they buy number 1 and they're like, okay, I bought it. I read it. Where's number 2? So clearly it was fine. They liked it. They enjoyed it. They want the next volume. So it's fine. It's one of those things as a creator that you're never happy with your early work. I mean, especially with artists. Artists will be like, oh my God, I could not draw when I started. Look at me now. Look at me now. Forget all that other stuff. With writers, it's the same way. My early stuff is obviously, I mean, that's the way it should be. You should be growing through what you're doing and getting better and better as you go. Is if you're not, your audience will see that.
Exactly. I mean, I completely agree on that. I will have to go ahead and go to the comments real quick because Celeste made the comment saying that she is so far behind, and Steph had to go ahead and reply with that she needed to start with the Steph Wilson covers and work back from there.
Yeah, start with covers. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Concentrate on the covers.
In case any of you didn't know, there's actually pages in between these covers, and they have words and pictures and sometimes really great art as well. I mean, yeah, you might want to look in there.
Sometimes.
Now, I like to go ahead and ask all of my guests because we don't have the ability to go to cons and we don't have the ability to do those kind of things right now. So I'm staying on a positive nature with this. So I like to go ahead and bring up memories of that. So I'm going to ask you, what was your most memorable con experience?
Oh man, I don't even know. It's I'll tell you, there's no one experience, but it was a culmination of things that I didn't know was happening, but later I had people tell me that they saw it, and it did lead to one moment that was kind of like, oh, that's okay, we're on to something. So basically, people ask me like how I broke into comics. I'm like, I didn't break into anything. I just built a little closet on the side of comics, and I just do my thing in there. That's it. I did not break in. I don't work for anybody else. I haven't written Batman or Superman, or I just made a little door and said, if anybody wants to come see what I do, the door's open. That's how I got into comics. But as we went along, we built ourselves a little clique. For those that I mean, it's obvious the industry is very cliquey. And since I wasn't really getting into the cliques, we ended up kind of building our own. But it wasn't on purpose. It just was what it was. And it became a thing where, especially when we got our first t-shirts, the Doing It Doggy Style t-shirts, it became a thing where we would come into the cons as a group. It would be me and, whatever artists that we had, whatever helpers that we had, we'd all be wearing our Big Dog shirts. We would kind of walk into the show, like the 5 or 6 of us, looking like, some kind of gang. We didn't care about anybody else. We weren't worried about what anybody else was doing. We just came in, we set up our booth, we did our thing. When the thing was over, we didn't go to parties. We didn't go meet up with anybody. We all went somewhere else as a Big Dog group. And so we became our own clique. And all of a sudden people wanted to get into our clique, which was very weird to me. But I actually had it pointed out to me by people kind of after we had stopped that, because we went over to Aspen and so on. People told me, like, they watched us come in, they watched us do it, and everything felt different, and we created a vibe that people wanted to be a part of. And so that's the best thing that kind of happened is to have people on the outside of us, outside of the company, say, yeah, we watched you. And this isn't just like fans saying that. This is publishers. This is media people that were doing blogs and podcasts and stuff. They told me later, they were like, yeah, you guys had like an air. We were like the NWA, right? Or the NWO, the New World Order. We were just like walking in, just doing whatever we wanted, walking back out. And people were like, well, that was cool. And so that was it. And then that led us to C2E2 2014, I think it was. Might have been 13. I think it might have been 14. We had the biggest booth on the floor next to Marvel Comics. It was Marvel Comics and then us. We had an entire island to ourselves. The place was packed the entire time. I mean, every side of that booth was just people all the time. We had like 8 artists there. We were debuting Joan of Arc there. It was immense. And I watched people that I knew. They didn't necessarily know me, but I knew them because they're big name comic book people. I would watch them walk past the booth and just sort of like look up, because we had a big banner hanging from the ceiling. And they would look at it and they'd be like, what the hell is this? And I was like, yeah, well, we got their attention. We finally got their attention. So that's how it all kind of reached its peak at that point.
And that's good, because I mean, it's setting up the unity, or showing, I'm not saying setting up, actually showing that unity out there is very big, because that way, whoever purchases your products or gets involved in BDI or wants to, see anything that you've got, they're actually seeing that it's not just you personally believing in it, that it's actually your team believing in it. And that's huge.
Yeah. And we've kind of lost that a little bit, because I haven't done many shows. We haven't done a lot of, like, hey, let's get all these artists together. I've been touring with NEI a little bit. But for the most part, it's been very low key events for me. I just haven't had the desire to go do all these shows again. And especially now with the Doghouse, I mean, the Doghouse is basically a live Comic-Con every month or every week. And so I just haven't had the drive. Even for our 10-year anniversary, we had like 4 shows on our plan, 4. And, we were open to doing more, but it just wasn't the con thing. It's like we talked about, the normal is not normal anymore. So the con thing was kind of going out the door for me a little bit. It's not that we weren't going to do any, but we were going to do fewer and fewer, more specific, try to make everything a little bit bigger when we did do one, right, versus just doing a whole bunch of little things. And not really making an impact. I'd rather do 5 shows and be big and make an impact than do 20 shows and be small and have no impact.
And that does make sense, because you want to make sure that impact is there, so that you're keeping that momentum going in between the shows as well. Because as soon as you start losing that momentum, it's hard to bring back.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah.
Now, you were bringing up about, actually, I'm going to ask you another question first before that one. I know I want to know, and I'm pretty sure that everyone else would like to know this as well, because I love hearing these kind of stories. As far as meeting somebody, and I mean, just completely fangirling over them, either at a convention or whatever, who was it for you?
I don't fangirl because I don't go near those people. I can't.
Really?
There are, I have met actors and actresses and gotten autographs and so on, and I've been fine. But there are definitely people that I can't go near, because I know that I will just be a blathering idiot. And so I walk by, I throw them a smile and a nod. How you doing? And that's it. I can't get near some of these people. Others I've struggled. Others are like, I have to do this. I have to find a way through it. And I did. And I'm glad that I did. Met PJ Souls from Halloween. That was a must do for me. I met Holly from Land of the Lost, which was a total like mind blown from WonderCon. She was unbelievable. So I've done it. I've met people, but I have not. There are people that I can't see. I can't do. Jennifer Grey comes to mind right off the top. Wilma Deering from Buck Rogers. Can't get near her. Cannot do it. I've seen her at shows for decades, literally decades, from when I first started doing Comic-Cons. And every time I walk by her, I'm like, this is the time. This is it. And I get to that line to walk in there, and I'm like, nope, it's not going to happen. And I just walk by and I smile and I nod, and she smiles and she nods. It's like, okay, good to see you again. And we move on.
And that does make sense to a degree, because you don't want to have that first impression being just, sitting up there and going straight up Forrest Gump or whatever on it.
I don't want to be, it's like, I don't want to be like, hi, can I get your autograph? Thanks, bye. Like, I don't want to be that guy. And I also don't want to be, oh my God, in Buck Rogers episode 7, when you did this thing with the Vorlon, like, what? I was like, I don't want to be that either. So I have to be able to find that middle ground, that even keel. And if I don't have it, I'm not going near him.
That sounds admirable. Then you're going ahead and going that route.
Yeah. Can't do it. Just can't do it.
Now, we were talking about
funny is here's the other thing. There are people that are gigantic stars, like Jason Momoa, for example, who I wouldn't even think twice about going and talk to, because I'm not really a fan. Like, he's fine, but I was never like a Game of Thrones guy. Like, I'm not an Aquaman guy. I'm just aware of him. Like, I know who he is. I know that he's like a good guy, just like in general. He's a good dad and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, I could go like have lunch with that guy and just be like, let's go shoot the shit. But then there's people that, like I said, like Jennifer Grey, there's no way I could go anywhere near her. I will tell you this. Oh, here's a con story. All right. Before all the Star Wars guys started getting really heavy into doing Comic-Cons, this was kind of early in that sort of vein. Somebody had brought in Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew, David Prowse. I want to say there was one more. It might have been Boba Fett, dude. I don't remember. But anyway, when I saw it, I was freaking out because Peter Mayhew was there and Chewbacca is like my guy. So I was like, oh my God, I have to go get Peter Mayhew's autograph. I have to do this. And so I did it. I went in, I grabbed the thing, I went in, met him. He was very cool. Shook my hand, like his hand. I was like, hey, thank you so much for this. And his hand was like, whomp, and my hand was gone. I mean, dude is huge. And I was like, hey, thank you so much. And he was like, so I think you're going to be my last autograph. I'm going to get some lunch. Thanks for coming. And I was like, I'll take you to lunch. Like, we'll go in. This was San Diego Comic-Con. I'm like, I'll take you into town. Anywhere you want to go. It's on me. He was like, really? Seriously? I was like, of course. I'm, let's go. And he was like, all right. So he picks up his bag and I was with my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, I'm taking Chewbacca to lunch. She was like, what is happening right now? And so he gets up and he's got his bag and he's getting ready to go around the table. Da, da, da. And then David Prowse, goddamn Darth Vader, comes in and blocks it and says, hey, Peter, the Booth company here, they're taking us to lunch. So, we're going to go this way. And Peter looks at me like heartbroken. He's like, I'm so sorry. I have to go with them because they're doing this thing. And I was like, I was dead inside, but I was like, it's fine. I get it. Go do your thing, man. It's cool. Thank you again for the autograph. And he was like, have a good show, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. So Darth Vader, cock blocked me on Chewbacca. There's my ridiculous con story.
That is the tagline that we definitely need to use for this whenever we're done.
That time Darth Vader. Yeah.
That is definitely a story that is not your normal. I got signature and stood in line for 3 hours, whatever thing. That's
nope.
That's a keeper.
Nope. Yep. It was fun. It was cool. And then I met the other Chewbacca out of the blue, the new Chewbacca. No, sorry, he wasn't the new Chewbacca. He was the new Darth Vader, the guy who did the Darth Vader stuff from Rogue One. He was just outside the hotel at Planet Comic-Con, just sitting there, and I had no idea who he was. And I had a Jaws shirt on, and he was like, "Oh, nice shirt." I'm like, "Oh, cool, yeah." He's like, "You going to the show?" I'm like, "Yeah, we got a booth." He's like, "Oh, cool." I'm like, "Are you?" I felt stupid because I'm like, "I don't know who he is." He's like, "Are you with any of the booths over there?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm one of the guests." I'm like, "Oh, cool." He's like, I'm blah blah blah," and I'm like, "What were you in?" He was like, "Oh, I don't know, Star Wars." And I was like, "Oh shit, sorry," So
Can you put the helmet on so I can recognize you?
Darth Vader. Darth Vader is just not. It's not working.
So you are not one with the Force or the dark side.
Yeah, God help me if I ever meet Hayden Christensen. That guy's gonna just cut me right down.
Now, in bringing up and talking about the cons, I wanted to go ahead and bring up about ClickCon because that is going to be happening toward the end of the year.
Yeah.
And well, I will go ahead and kind of segue you into it because I don't know if Wendy is still, she was here. I thought she was here. But Wendy Steen-Shaner did an online con in January that was phenomenal. It was beyond, it was before all of this happening outdoors and everything that you had to be indoors to do it. So it was above and beyond. So that leads me into, she's actually going to be working with you on this. And if you'll go ahead and tell a little bit about what's going to be happening with that.
Well, yeah, she and we went to Red Lobster, and I basically, I just told her, I was like, "You did a great job on that thing. Are you going to do it again?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to figure out how to do it again." And as we were talking, I was like, Jesus, why didn't I think about this? Why aren't we doing not a ClickCon? It wasn't a ClickCon at the time. Why aren't we doing an online Comic-Con through Kickstarter like you did? But why aren't we doing it with multiple people? Like legitimately an online Comic-Con thing. And her eyes were just like, that's awesome. And so for the rest of the night, it was like whoever else was at the table with us, they were like, they're gone. All right, we're right here. And we just kept going back and forth. This, what about this? And by the time we were done with dinner, we had the skeleton of this laid out. We knew we wanted to have at least one more person involved. We knew some people that do Kickstarters and that we could, attach. So we talked to CB Zane because we knew that he was probably going to be ready to do something around that time. Because again, scheduling is a key. And he was in immediately. He got it right away. We've had this Facebook chat thing going back and forth for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months now, just talking about ideas. And we've really got it streamlined where I think it's going to come out really, really well. It's going to be really easy to understand. It's going to be really easy to take part. Like we said with the Princess versus Zombies, we're making it very accessible. So we're going to do the same thing here. It's going to be a very, very accessible campaign. And so it'll be myself, it'll be CB Zane, it'll be Wendy Steen-Shaner. It will be 3 brand new books. They are all spin-offs of existing titles that we do. So Wendy's got her Naughty Fairy Stripper Assassins. It's going to be a spin-off from that. CB has his Into the Suck. Scorpiana. He has a character from Scorpiana called Mighty Might, who's going to be his character. And then I have a spin-off from Critter, which is a parallel within the Critter superhero world universe that I have, there are parallel universes, and there's different versions of Critter. There's a vampire Critter and so on. So my character is going to be one of the spin-off parallel universes for a goth style superhero based on Critter, and her name is Catnip. So there will actually be 3 brand new stories all on this thing that we are now calling ClickCon. It was originally going to be CLIQUE, like a click, but since we knew you had to go in and click, 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 we decided to make it ClickCon, and that'll be September.
Nice. Definitely looking forward to that. And that sounds like a lot of fun, because I know Wendy's was an absolute success above and beyond. Yep. And so putting more minds to this and making it on a larger scale, I think it's going to do really well on that.
Yeah, it's the old adage, strength in numbers, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that all 3 of us have, active, engaged fan bases. There's already a little bit of, crossover between all 3 of us, because, CB does stuff for all of us. So just from that alone, we have this crossover. But the fact that we can basically take all 3 of those fan bases and, aim them all at one project, it should be fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, this is one way that you're giving back to the community from within the industry. I want to kind of touch on that for my next subject line here, is actually the ways that you are giving back to the community. And I have a few ways that are written down here. One of which is, I'm going to say it out there this way, is your engaging posts that you put out there. The reason I say it that way is because there are so many posts that are out there that are negative, that are everybody's ticked off at this, at that, and this person and whatever. We don't get into all of the negativity on here by any means, but what I'm saying is on yours, you put something out there and then you challenge somebody as far as how far they're going to go with it. So case in point, I want you to talk about like the head-to-head combat that you have between the movies and whatnot.
Sure.
If you can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, it's just a fun post. It's we call it Nerd War. And basically I'm taking 2 movies, and I try to, sometimes we do it by genre. Sometimes it's just, and most of the time it's just by year, so it's like 1980. I don't know what the hell was the dates. 1980, was it 1980? It was Terminator and Die Hard. So we just put up the 2 movies, and we're like, okay, it's Terminator or it's Die Hard. You only get one pick. And it's not necessarily which is better, what's a better film, it's just pick, tell us why. If you can only pick one, if you have to watch one of these for the rest of your life, which one is it? Why? There's no wrong answer. Well, there is a wrong answer, but we won't get into that part. But it's just for fun, and people get excited about it, and some people get really ramped up about it. This last one, people are talking about Pulp Fiction and Shawshank Redemption. And there's people coming in here about, Pulp Fiction like changed the way movies are done and this and that. And I'm just like, that's extreme, but okay, fine, whatever. That's how you're gonna roll. So yeah, it's just for fun, and as opposed to just making it a poll, like, hey, pick one. That's dumb. It's the thread is open. Just come in, tell us. Some people just come in and pick it. Others come in and be like, well, I like this and I like that, and this is why I like it. So then that's cool. It's fine.
Yeah, and it is. It definitely is. And you and I had kind of discussed prior to this, but I want to go ahead and bring up this, is that the first time that I had gotten involved in the Nerd War, I made the mistake of going ahead and saying that I liked one in particular. And I said, hands down, best movie, mic drop. You never want a mic drop with Tom, because he'll pick the mic up and go right back at it. And I could have taken that as a bad thing.
Listen, Michael Jackson told you never let go of the mic, ever, because that means someone else is going to pick it up.
But the main thing is that you challenged me, and it made it to where I had to actually think about what I was going on there, instead of just saying, hey, I already know I'm right, I'm going to throw it down there. I actually had to prove why I was. And like you said, there is no right or wrong answer. Right. It's just a matter of expounding on things and getting your opinions out there, and then other people bouncing off of those. And it was done in a positive and fun way.
Yep. Yeah, that's the whole point. There's no point in making anything negative. It's not a challenge. It's not a prove me wrong. It's just to tell me what you like, and we'll see how your whatever you pick, see how it stacks up against the others, and one of them wins. I mean, there's no prize here, but it's fun. It's social media. So let's get social and let's have a little fun with it. And it's the same thing that we would do at Comic-Con. We would be like, hey, is Buck Rogers better than Flash Gordon? But we're just doing it online. So, it's fine.
And that makes total sense on there. Now, the other part of this is that you're bringing back to, and you're giving back to the industry. I wanted to bring up about your retail relief bundles that you were doing.
Sure.
To me, that was huge because it was done at a time whenever companies were going ahead and saying, not my problem, I'm out of this. I got to go ahead and just stay out of it. I'm not going to do anything. And then you went ahead and stepped in and you're offering a retail bundle for these LCSs. If you'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. This happened right when comics stopped shipping. So for those that don't know, the distributor, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces here, but basically Diamond, the distributor, was like, that's it. We're not shipping anything anymore. We're closing the warehouse, whatever. This came down the line from other things. Printers were closing or whatever. So it's a domino effect. But once Diamond was like, that's it, we're done. Retail stores were not getting new comics. And so we were trying to figure out, how do we help these comics, or comic stores stay in business? How do we help them do anything? And so I was like, look, any store that wants a free pack of books, and I'm not talking about like, here's 10 books. We sent trade paperbacks and variants and all kinds of stuff. Like this is what we sent, a full large priority box. A few $100s worth of retail stuff just for free on our dime. We paid for the shipping, the whole thing. I was like, look, here's some stuff. If you can sell it, go for it. If you want it, it's free. Put some Big Dog on your shelf, show your customers, expose them to something they maybe haven't seen before. We had a bunch of people that carry Big Dog Ink stuff anyway, and they were like, yeah, please, let's get some more in. I'm like, cool. Other people that didn't have it were just happy to have some books. So yeah, we probably sent out, I don't know, maybe about 50 packs, roughly, something like that. So it's not a huge significant portion of the industry that we were able to throw out there, but it was something that we were able to do to help them put a little money in their pocket, maybe expand their market base a little bit, from all the other stores that were in their, whatever region that they're in. And it was fine. I didn't mind doing it.
And that is still ongoing. You're still able to go ahead and ship those to stores who are interested in this.
Yeah, if anybody has a retail store and you're interested in getting a free pack of books from Big Dog Ink, just shoot me a message here on Facebook and we can work it out.
Absolutely. And the main thing is, again, we're talking about we're creating our own new normal that we're going into. Yep. So if you're going to go through with getting that could be part of the new normal that you're kind of creating at that point, because you create that relationship with Big Dog and you can start carrying their books as well. I mean,
yeah, we're not in Diamond. We haven't been in Diamond for going on almost 4 years. Made that conscious decision that the marketplace just isn't working, and the retail marketplace is not working. Not for indies. Not to any level that I would need to be rushing back in to be a part of it. But we do deal with stores direct all the time. People are like, Alterna's going, they're like, oh my God, Alterna dropped out of Diamond and they're dealing direct. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing that for 4 years, guys. Like, this isn't new. This is just people that get attention on Comic Book Shopping Network, Comic Book Resources, Bleeding Cool, all the companies that actually get covered. Not us. They're doing the things that we've been doing for years. So it's not like we're sitting over here going, hey, we're trailblazing anything. It's just, we made decisions for our company and that's the way it was going to be. But, we as Big Dog Inc. have had very, very little media attention as far as the big company, platforms. We've always been part of smaller podcasts and websites and whatever. But as far as Bleeding Cool, Newsarama, all that kind of stuff, couldn't care less. So again, we just said, whatever. and we did it our own way, and we're still here 10 years later, and we're thriving. So, you know.
And that selfless act, doing that and coming out, because you could have easily gone, hey guys, you may be out of business and everything. We're not. Everybody come buy from us. It's not the matter of just standing there going, come on, I need the money. It's not that you don't need the money. It's the fact that you're doing the selfless act to go ahead and help out others and hopefully build those relationships is what you're trying to do.
Sure. It's everything is relationships. Well. Everything. I mean, no one wants retail stores to go away. That's crazy. But, you know, the reality is that things have to change, and they're changing right now. I mean, they're changing fast. But you can always call up a publisher, whether it's Big Dog Inc., whether it's Devil's Due, whether it's Aspen Comics, whether it's Scout, Vault, whatever. You can always call these publishers up and just say, hey, what can we do together? Because that's the whole thing. If it's about you, you're going to lose. If it's about us, we're all going to win. The rising tide lifts all ships. So let's figure out how to work together, and we can make everything better.
Exactly. And that all ties into rebuilding the new norm. How are you going to do it? Well, if you keep fighting each other and trying to scrape and claw for everything you can get on separate entities on here, nobody's going to win. But if you can actually show some unity in this and start working together, this industry can go ahead. I mean, this part of the industry, I'm not saying the industry as a whole, but this part of the industry with the indies can definitely make its mark.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you already that there's other publishers that I've talked to that we have things percolating, and we'll just leave it at that.
See, the master of teas right there. There we go again. We'll see a post one of these days, and it'll say who so and so and so and so are together on this.
Remember when I told you that thing on Phil's show? Yep. Here it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So technically, it's an exclusive. I will take it at that. Now, leading into the next part of this, because we're talking about how to.
Let's go back one more thing though.
Oh, go ahead.
As we're talking about, and this isn't to pat myself on the back, but it's an important thing, because we talked about the Comic Book Shopping Network. One more thing that I did as far as trying to help and give back to the industry, not to the industry per se, but to the artists specifically that do this industry, that are this industry, is we have a sister group to the Comic Book Shopping Network called the Artist Alley Shopping Network. You have CB Zane, Monty Moore, Jesse Wichman, Alfred Trujillo, Steph Wilson, Nia Ruffino, David Harrigan, Dan Doherty just started today, Vince Hernandez, David Fott, Jen Broomall starts on Sunday, and we'll give you another exclusive. I haven't announced it yet. Jay Photos is going to be joining us starting on Monday. This is just a group that I started up so that these guys could do what I was doing on the Comic Book Shopping Network. I wanted these artists to have an opportunity to not have to be chasing so many cons and be able to do commissions online and have a direct connection like I had with my fans, so they could build it through the Artist Alley Shopping Network. So please join Comic Book Shopping Network and the Artist Alley Shopping Network, because both are sort of the next level of connection with creators and retailers to you.
Absolutely. And I'm a part of both of those on there. I will say that if you are not part of these groups and you get tagged in to go see or whatever, you won't be able to comment in there. You'll be able to watch.
Right.
So you definitely want to go ahead and ask for that permission to go ahead and join up. It is well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. If you like art, go to the Artist Alley Shopping Network. If you want to just buy comics, it's almost 18 hours a day. There are live shows on the Comic Book Shopping Network.
Yeah, there's quite a few on there. That is for certain. Now, let me ask you this. What makes BDI stand apart from the others?
I mean, me. That's the answer. Because everything that we do is me. So I write 99% of what we do. I determine basically 100% of what we do as far as releases and order and marketing and so on. I mean, Big Dog Inc. is my voice in comics, so it's me. And again, that's not to pat myself on the back. That's just the reality. I mean, there's lots of places that do horror comics. There's lots of places that do superhero comics. I just like to think that my voice within those comics, within those genres, is unique in some way. So far, after 10 years of doing it, the people that read the books, that give the interiors a chance besides the covers, tend to agree with me. I'm also the art director, so everything that you see on the covers is all designed by me. Now they do the art, of course, but I go find the artists that I want. There's generally a let's do kind of this or that. They send me some roughs. I pick one and they flesh it out. So I art direct everything. So even conceptually, 99% of what you see is from here first to the artist's hands and then out onto the paper for print. On occasion, we'll just be like, "Hey, do what you want," and I'm happy to do that. There are artists that I trust enough to be just like, "Whatever you want, man. Let's just roll the dice and do it." Some of our best covers that we've ever had have been like that. Mike DeBalfo got free reign for a Joan of Arc cover. It was our fastest selling cover of all time when it came out. So there's definitely those just do what you want moments. There's other times where it's like, I kind of need this because I want this to be a conceptual thing and not just, boobs in your face.
Exactly. You want to change up from the norm again. So you don't want to have something that's stale and stagnant. You want to have something that whenever it comes out, it's like, wow, I've never seen something like that before.
Right. I mean, that's got to be your goal. If you're doing something that is just so hyper derivative of what's already out there, it's fine. But, what are you really doing? And that doesn't mean that you can't take stuff and rework it. I mean, we've had Catgirl superheroes forever, but my Catgirl superhero is not Catwoman. It is not, I don't even know who the other Catgirl things are, but it's different from what you see in other superhero things. So, she's not Tigra. She's not, whatever, name a Catgirl superhero. She's not like that. She's different. So try even when you're derivative, which a lot of stuff is because there's so much stuff that exists. Try and find your own little left turn so that when it hits the marketplace, it's not just like, oh, that reminds me of that thing. Because it's like, no, I didn't do my job. I need it to be just a thing. Like I need you to just be attracted to it because you are, if that's even possible. So, it's like public domain stuff. People will be like, well, you do public domain. I'm like, yeah, but when I do public domain, I don't do it in a way that's already been done. We do Legend of Oz, which is a Western reimagining of the Wizard of Oz. There's no Western Oz anywhere. Our Marie Antoinette is a complete historical fiction. It's based on real things that we then took and extrapolated out in a new way that, so far as I know, there's not been an Antoinette back from the dead story ever, so far as I know. So we try and find things that just haven't been done before, or find a way to do them in a way that hasn't been done before. And that's very difficult. But that's the whole point of creating. You kind of have to do it. You kind of have to put the effort in and find why what you're doing matters or will matter to somebody else. It always matters to you. The creator, it always matters to. But that no one cares. It has to matter to who you're selling it to.
Exactly. If you're not actually selling to your audience and you're just trying to appease whatever you're trying to get out there for your own interest, then it'll never go any further than just past you.
Yeah. It makes it difficult.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now I know we see a lot of motion in the comments and everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you have some questions, get those ready. We'll be going to the comments here very shortly. I want to go ahead and ask, I've kind of had some fun with this question, so I wanted to ask you, because we like using the DeLorean on the show every once in a while.
Okay.
So if you had a DeLorean and you could go 88 miles an hour and go back in time and change one thing within BDI, what would you change?
Oh my God. That's a good question. I mean, there's really only 3 moments in BDI history that were kind of altering. The first is the founding of it. The second is our moving to Aspen. And then the third is our coming out and using Kickstarter. The reality is that all 3 of those moments were key in our development at the time. obviously starting, you have to start. The Aspen thing was a super key needed element for that moment in time. And then Kickstarter, as we came out, was again, we evolved through all of that. And I don't think that there's anything that we could do that changing would have helped us, because we needed all of those moments to build to what is now, even though we're kind of rebuilding. Without those moments, without all of the moments that we had, successes and failures, we wouldn't have been able to rebuild this and get to this point. So I don't think there's anything that we would change. And that maybe sounds arrogant, but the reality is that everything mattered along the way. Everything that we learned mattered to the next stage of where we were going. So there's no way to go back and like smooth out a bump that would then make things better going forward. Like there's nothing there. Anything that just like Back to the Future, if you went back and you changed something, it's going to monkey with what came next, and probably it's going to be for the worse, because you're fixing a failure, chances are, and you might need that failure to actually succeed later.
That is absolutely, I agree with you on those statements as well, because it does make a difference on what you're learning and how you move forward. It's all in your perception on how you're moving forward or how you're letting it hold you back.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Now, we did have, whenever I asked you what you would change if you went back in the DeLorean, James Smithers said, sign Steph Wilson earlier.
I think we got Steph right when we needed Steph, because he was on my radar. We were not his first cover, but we were in his first batch. As soon as he became ultimately, and there's been a lot of artists like this over the years that I've watched, and I'm like, it's not really quite there. Okay, go. I see something from them, and I'm like, okay, go. And Steph was an okay go last year. David Fott is another one. I've been watching him for a long time, and this year I was like, yes, it's okay, go. And he's knocked it out of the park a couple of times. So I think Steph landed right when he needed to land. And he did what I've told artists to do, which is stop drawing the same damn thing all over and over again. He just came out and was like, so I kind of want to draw Joan of Arc. I was like, yeah, draw Joan of Arc. And so he did it. And then he was like, hey, here it is. And I was like, it's okay. Change a couple of things, do a couple, this, that, the other thing, just kind of, tie it in so that the character is more detail accurate. It was fan art. It wasn't a cover. He was just doing fan art, and he got edits, and he did it. And that's the thing. That's also a test, because if he hadn't done the edits, if he had just been like, I'm good, this is fine, then I would have seen him as an artist that was too egocentric to listen to somebody and what their critique is, particularly a publisher. If this is the fan, you can kind of be like, well, art's subjective and whatever. But when you're dealing with a publisher and you're drawing their character and they're actively engaged with you and saying, what if, that means they're interested, and you need to listen and you need to take care of that. And the jobs come out the other end of that, which is what happened with Steph.
And we do have, now Steph did say, go ... I have some edits. He was saying that as you were talking with that, because we have talked about how the edits play a part and makes it fun for him on his side.
He has had a few that have been first timers, like, yep, got it, go. But most of the time, and this is with all artists, most of the time it's like, here's a few roughs. Okay, I like that one. Okay, let's flesh it out. Okay, costume, fix that, whatever. And but that's my job. I have to make sure that when we're done, everything looks awesome. So,
Doug Warrington, Doug wanted you to tell the story of how you and Steph met.
I have not met Steph. We have not met.
Many have.
Nope. Probably, honestly, 75% of the artists that I've worked with, I've never met because they're Brazil and Argentina and, you know, all across the country, across the globe. So it's rare that I meet the bulk of the artists. You know, I have Natalie Sanders and Jen Broomall, and, you know, those guys used to tour with us. You know, Nia Rufino, she and I are together all the time. But especially since I haven't done as many cons, which is what's kind of slowed that part down too. I would have met Steph last year at Baltimore, but I didn't do Baltimore. So, you know, there's a lot of guys, like I've never met Mike Chrome. No, that's not true. I did finally meet Mike last year, C2E2. But that was the first time I'd met him, and we'd worked with him for, you know, 5 or 6 years. So I've never met Steph, not yet.
Yeah, I did get to meet him. He actually came to our first con that we set up a table and everything, and I had mentioned it to him, not thinking that much about it, thinking, you know, if he's going to show up, he's going to show up, whatever. And I thought, he's an artist, he's never going to show up. And plus, kind of a fan of Steph's. And I'm sorry, yes, I said it out loud, and I know the ego is going there on that one, and I'll pay for that one later. But he showed up, and yeah, I did a little bit of fangirling. Heather was laughing at me quite a bit at that point. But all around, he is as nice as he is online with everything going on. He is just that way in person as well. So he is definitely a giver. That's what he says all the time. He definitely is. Yeah,
he has committed to the act, but when he's off camera, that's not him. There's no way. Commits to the public persona, but we know there's more behind the camera.
Oh yeah, definitely. But then again, that's the way most of us are anyway. So yeah.
Well, yeah.
I am no different. I will say that. They don't call me Demon Phil for nothing. Now, I wanted to go ahead and go into what is the future of VDI and yourself. You had already mentioned about Catnip. So if you can go ahead and kind of talk about her a little bit, and then what you can give us as far as information of the future of VDI and yourself.
I mean, we'll be continuing to do our Kickstarters quarterly. I mean, that'll be our bulk. But we are starting to move into in-between elements. The first, which will be this year, which will be May 22nd. May 22nd is World Goth Day. So we are going to be doing a series of variant covers where we are gothing up our primary ladies, Naomi, Dorothy Gale, Scheherazade, Critter, and oh my God, what's our fifth that I'm forgetting? Oh, Penny for Your Soul, Mary Magdalene. So we'll have those 5 as goth variants. They will be all part of reprintings of #1 of their books, so that people that are buying them, if they have not read the books before, they're not just getting like #6 in a series. It'll all be #1s. Catnip will be the Critter cover. That will be the first appearance of Catnip. And then that will, of course, lead to her story, her primary story for ClickCon in September. But her first appearance cover-wise will be on the goth covers. And then as we go into June, July, we'll have some other kind of covers like that, some specialty days. Like everything in the year is a day. You know, there's Cat Day and Dog Day and whatever day, you know, Cauliflower Day. And so in June and July, we're going to have some specialty covers like that as well, for our 10-year anniversary, having a little fun with it. And then in July, we're going to have our next Kickstarter, but I have changed the plan. Originally, it was going to be our next Oz book. It is not going to be our next Oz book. We will be saving that for January of next year. July is going to be a special 10-year anniversary project. We're not going to tell you exactly what it is yet. We've already hinted at it online a little bit, but we're not going to give you all the details. Ula Moss is going to be doing the primary cover, but that will be happening in July. And probably it's going to be a bit before we can get too deep into it. But towards the end of May, we'll start getting into the hows and whys, because we want to get Princesses versus Zombies done. We want to get goth day done. We don't want to overwhelm people with things. So at end of May into June, we'll start to get serious about what July is going to be. And then again, it's quarterlies, the ClickCon, and just little things along the way. And of course, weekly shows on the Doghouse, CBSN. So the next couple of weeks are going to get weird because I'm shipping Penny for Your Soul and Scheherazade books starting next week. So I'm not sure what next week is going to be for Wednesday because I might be dead by shipping this stuff. So we'll see. We'll do something, but I don't know if it's going to be a full blown sales show. So it might be a good night to just kind of come in and hang out and see what everything is and what we do, and kind of mellow out. But in 3 episodes, episode 50 on the Comic Book Shopping Network, it will be Customer Appreciation Night. It'll be our second time that we've done this. Customer Appreciation Night means I will sign your books if you want them signed. I don't sign them every week because I would be just sitting here signing books, and I can't do it. So I'll sign your books if you want them on Customer Appreciation Night. You'll get some extra swag. There'll be stickers and trading cards and stuff that you'll just get thrown in. And there will be a free variant cover that you'll get as long as you're buying something that night. Simple as that. You just get a free Customer Appreciation cover. The last time we did them was last year. We made 40 of them. Good luck finding one. They are in people's collections. They're not coming out. And we're going to have the same thing. We will have a Princesses versus Zombies cover for our Customer Appreciation Night in 3 weeks. So we have 3 more episodes, and we'll do our Customer Appreciation Night.
And that will be a lot of fun. I mean, the Doghouse is already a ton of fun as is, so it's definitely worth going in there and enjoying some time, having some fun, and being with some friends and causing havoc. It's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, basically just what's happening here. I mean, you guys are all just sitting here chatting. Oh my God, I'm so tired. And that's what it is. It's people are chatting and they're looking at books and they're like, oh, I'll take that penny book. And, I set it aside for them and it's theirs. And then they're back to chatting. Oh yeah. Did you read the last Critter? Whatever. It's just a good time.
Exactly. And I will say in the comments up here, let me see if I can bring it up real quick. Celeste had said something up here real quick. There we go. Want to see how you feel about that statement right there, knowing how much you enjoy Red Lobster.
White Castle is trash. So Red Lobster is light years ahead of White Castle. White Castle is trash. You heard hashtag White Castle is trash.
Well, she's amassed quite a few people that have said that they're going to go eat at her place. So she's like taking orders and doing all that in here as well in the comments. So yeah, just letting you know that I think the challenge has been laid out there on that one. Maybe that could be your next nerd war.
she tried to get me to come over and eat some weird food. I was like, I don't understand any of the words that you're saying that's going in this food, so I'm gonna have to pass. I don't remember what it was, but it was like something about cabbage. I was like, no, if it's growing out of the ground or hanging off a tree, I'm really not interested. It needs to have been alive at some point and had a spear put through its head, and then we'll probably talk about it.
Absolutely. Now, are we going to try to have at some point where we can have a BDI get together of some kind, a con get together or something along those lines?
I mean, I've thought about that, and we were thinking about doing that this year because it's our 10-year anniversary. It's so difficult for people to, and God knows what it's going to be like when we get out of this Corona thing. So to do something where you're like, okay, here's a thing and you guys got to fly out for this thing. I mean, it's not impossible, but it would probably have to be in the Midwest somewhere to make travel very easy for everybody. It would have to be a big enough deal with enough people to, like Polito's done this before, but it takes a very specific type of event. I don't know if I should talk about this. I actually had something that I was trying to build with a couple of artists. I threw it at them. I was like, why aren't we doing this? And they were like, I don't know why we're not doing this. And I was like, okay, good. So I'm on the right track. So there might be something to that idea, versus just a, hey, here's a BDI thing. Like BDI would be part of it, but it would be a little bit larger, open thing that I think would have more of a general draw. If you're not a Big Dog fan, there would still be stuff there that would be relevant to you. So that is potentially something that I will be working on as we go into next year. But again, we kind of have to see what the new normal is with cons and with groupings and when you're even allowed to do it. So I can't even imagine thinking about doing it till maybe 2022 at this point.
Which is smart thinking, because you don't want to throw something out there and it not turn out correctly. Right. And then that's the stigmata that goes with it from then on.
Yep. And if we aim for 2022, I can start talking to people next year as things loosen up, and I can be like, look, we're going to do this thing. Let's get you involved. Okay. Then we have a year to plan it out, market it, and drop it. So, we'll see. It's something that's been considered, but it is not on the front burner yet.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's at least good that you're actually considering that, because that, again, you're putting your fans ahead of everything, which is a true mark of how the company is reacting from this. I mean, we see what the Kickstarter is doing and we see what the other sales are doing. So it's definitely working.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let me see, what do we have here? Not a big not a Big Dog fan. What do I
the only people that are not Big Dog fans are the people that don't know who we are. Once you know who we are, you're in the doghouse. That's it. You're done. The door's locked. The trick is just getting them to know who we are. And like we talked about before, that's the difficult part.
Absolutely. And everyone that's in there, yourself included, are very welcome to bringing in new members and bringing in new people to go ahead and try it out. There is no pressure. It's not like whenever you go into the doghouse, well, this is your first night, you have to buy. No. There is nothing with that. There is no pressure for anybody to buy on any night.
Nope. Do what you want. If you see something you like, grab it. If you just want to hang out, then hang out.
Exactly. And that's the main thing, is we get in there and we do have fun. We hang out, and you never have a problem with that. Every once in a while it gets a little rowdy where we kind of get off of the topic of the books or whatever, and you have to kind of move us back into place, but it's kind of fun doing that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Listen, if I can wrangle the artists to, get their work done, I can wrangle people in a chat room. Not a problem.
Well, you do work with Steph, so we know you're able to deal with that. Okay. You don't have this problem with Witchman, do you?
Witchman needs edits too, Steph. Don't worry. Witchman needs edits too.
And Steph's going to go ahead and keep that audible clip too, I'm sure. He's recording several pieces of this, I'm certain.
Hashtag Witchman needs edits too, yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly fun. We've learned a lot going through this. If you have any last questions, if you want to go ahead and throw some out there, have some fun with this. Tom is still here right now, and he's still awake. He's only yawned once, so we're okay.
I know, right? An hour and a half and one yawn. That's pretty good.
I must be doing okay over on this side, because only one yawn is not bad at all.
You're fine. Yeah. No, whatever you guys want. I mean, it doesn't have to be comics, it doesn't have to be Big Dog, whatever. Just, as always, if you've got questions or things to talk about or whatever, that's what we do. That's what these things are. I mean, they're basically Comic-Con panels, where we kind of just shoot the crap about this, that, or the other thing. But, we can get a little deeper too. When we did our last, not our last, but 3 weeks ago, Doghouse, we did trivia on that night, but it was all just general knowledge trivia. It wasn't even Big Dog trivia. It was like movies and TV and all kinds of crap. So, I have all the answers for you, regardless of the question. They may be wrong answers, but I have the answers.
Now, Doug had asked this a little while ago, and I missed it, and I apologize because we've been rolling through some of the other ones, but he did ask, and I believe we had touched on this at the very beginning when we started talking, but is Princesses vs. Zombies the biggest Kickstarter?
It is pacing to be. Whether it will end up being there or not is another question. It is currently pacing over Penny 7 to be our biggest, but it's also like 8 days shorter than Penny 7 was. So that could come into play and affect it from actually reaching the top. But at this point, it seems like it will at least be higher than Penny through the 20, whatever it was, 26 days, 25 days. So it is currently pacing to be our best ever. And we just have to see how it plays out. The fact that we have 400 backers in a week is, I don't even know how to, 401. In fact, I just saw another one today, earlier. So I don't know how to quantify how that happened, but it did. Part of that is you guys, of course. Part of that is all of the sharing. Part of it is doing things like this so that people can find us. We had like 5 new people on the Doghouse on Wednesday night. Right at the end, we had like 5 people jump in, and they were like snatching stuff up. So you know, it's all grassroots. Everything that has been Big Dog has always been grassroots. It has never been ta-da. It's always just been a little and 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 up to, you know, where we are, which is fine. I mean, that's how you build a base that's solid versus, like we talked about earlier, this hype machine stuff where it's like, ooh, and then what's next? You don't know what's next. So with us, there's always something next, and we'll just keep moving up.
Exactly. Now, we do have a question from Russell. And of course, it's Russell. What is the Unaladen flight speed of a sea swallow?
Let's say 3. 3 sounds good.
Let's go to Smithers asks, what is your hardest book to write?
Probably Penny for Your Soul, because I really want it to tie into the Bible, the pop culture elements that we all know, like Da Vinci Code and things like that. I really want it to feel like it is grounded in all of these things that we know. But at the same time, it is filled, especially this last one. I'll tell you that Pestilence, for sure. It's filled with messages that I think are subtle. But if you're reading it and you're paying attention, you see it and it's there. I don't write agenda books. I don't come in and say, I'm going to tell these guys what I think politically and what I think about race and what I think about gender. Like that's not the goal. The goal is I'm going to write a book that's fun and entertaining. And if I have an opportunity, I'm going to throw a message in your face. It's going to be right in there. And a lot of the time it goes right over people's heads. But I do get messages from time to time where they're like, I see what you did there. And I'm like, oh, do you? And they're like, yeah, this little right here, this piece and what Lucifer said about the flags and stuff. And I'm like, very good. You know, so there's all kinds of layers to Penny for Your Soul. I mean, it is just layered. And so it's difficult because I don't want to let up, and I don't want to make, I don't want to disappoint the people that are reading it. There's so many characters that all have these different, the characters have agendas, of course. And they're all doing different things, and they're, it's got to tie together, and then it's got to break apart, and then it's, whatever. So Penny is difficult. But I think at the end of the day, the sales for the book speak for itself. People love what's happening with it. And so, it's the result is fun, even if the writing is a chore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're bringing up about the characters. There is one question that I did want to ask, because it's in the title in a lot of these, and it is the Critter's daddy is what you're known as. With Critter, first of all, it was a few weeks back, you went ahead and said, look, if you're not familiar with my books, you're not familiar with what we do here at Big Dog Inc., if you're not familiar with my first and foremost that I've got, and most proud of, basically, here's the first 4 books right here.
Yeah. Yep.
And you offered a PDF and said, anybody who wants it, message me. You got it.
Yep.
And sure enough, you did, because I took you up on it, of course, and I got them and absolutely loved the story. I mean, I was able to get caught up on that to go ahead and see what's going on and see what everybody, I won't use the word hype, but see what everybody was on board with on that.
Of course.
So if you can kind of tell us, why is it the Critters Daddy? What's the premise of being called that?
Well, Critters Daddy, when I started doing comics, this was 10 years ago. Message boards were a big thing. There was a website called Digital Webbing. I think it still exists, but I don't use it anymore. Where I was learning a lot about how to make comics and so on. And so when you do a message board, you've got to have a name. Now it's like Reddit, and you still have my computer's dying here. You still have weird names and stuff that people go by. So when I had to make my name for Digital Webbing, I was like, well, I want it to be relevant to what I was doing. There wasn't really Big Dog at the time. The company didn't exist. There was no company name. I was just making comics. So Critter was what I was working on. And so I just was like, well, I'll just be Critter's daddy because I'm making Critter and I don't have kids. So this is basically the closest thing that I have to, a legacy in my life. So I became Critter's daddy and that was it. And Digital Webbing was a huge part of how I started making comics, and it's how I met my partner, who helped me found Big Dog, who everybody met a couple of weeks ago, Steven Smurl, and away we went. And
you can really tell how much it actually you connect directly with that character because of the forward. I was very impressed because it's one of those that you open up usually and you're like, I don't want to read that much. I just want to get straight into the story.
Yep.
But I was being very critical, for lack of better terms, on that, because I wanted to see exactly what everything was going into this. And I was able to read the forward, and it's one of those that you're just kind of sitting back going, wow. When we talk about passion in the indies, that was put forth in that just that one piece right there. And it made it to where it was like, I have to go ahead and read through these now. I got to find out what happens in this.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people actually come back with that. Stephanie Taylor was one of the first, and she ended up being Critter for cosplay for a year or so. She had bought the book just at random, came back the following year and was like, hey, I read this forward and it's really cool and whatever. And I was like, well, you read the forward? Who reads the forward? What are you, a freak? But she was awesome. She loved it. Just like you said, she read it. She saw that the character wasn't just out there. It meant something to me. And if you haven't read it, get your trade paperback and go read it. You'll understand what and why it is relevant. And as I was writing it, I mean, that's how I felt. It was like, I have this character that I love, but the bottom line is as a writer, I have to put her through hell, and that's my job. And if I don't, then she can't ultimately become what she can be. And so it was kind of weird, maybe, but I think ultimately in the end, people get it, and it was a good piece that people that do read it, they definitely came back and understood, why Critter is what she is to me.
Absolutely. And like I said, you could definitely see that through that forward on there. Now, James Smithers asks, how did you find Shannon Mayer?
I didn't. My ex-wife did, but it was it's as almost I find any of these artists, it was Facebook. He was, I don't know if he was in a art group or if she found his actual art page. That I'm not sure. I don't remember. But she came to me and she was like, hey, this guy does some cool, kind of painted stuff. And, maybe it would work for what we're doing. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's he did at the time, and I think he still does. He does art for like slot machines and stuff, which is really cool. And he had some other pieces, and he was doing some fairy work and things like that. And I was like, yeah, this could probably work. So we just got a hold of him, and we were like, hey, so, do you want to do like comic covers? Like, is that something that even appeals to you? And he vibed on what we were doing immediately, especially the Oz cover, which was his first cover. He had tossed out some ideas, and I was like, well, I kind of want this. I kind of want her laying on the yellow brick road. Kind of want the poppies up on the side. And as soon as he heard it, he was like, I get it. I'm on it. And he nailed it. And since then, again, he's one of these guys that takes direction well. For him, I don't give him a lot of edits. I mean, it's basically he's good enough that he's just going to kind of give us the character that we want, because we don't do a lot of like heavy backgrounds with him. He's basically just a figure with some cool lighting and so on. So we don't have to get too heavy and conceptual with him. He just gives us those really nice character pops. And he's always super gracious with us. He's always super great with our fans, and people have responded to him. And of course, we were first. Everybody who's chasing down Shannon now, we were first. We've had a lot of guys that are first that have moved on to do other things, and that's part of my job as an art director, is to keep finding new people, because it's great to keep working with the same guys, of course, but you also need to find fresh blood. Partially because of scheduling, not everybody can just keep doing another cover. I mean, they're working for other people too. So you need to literally have somebody to fill in those gaps. But at the same time, for Big Dog, art is a huge thing. And I want to continue to bring a breadth of style and influence and concept. And you can really only do that by continuing to find new people to do things in new ways.
That is very true with that. Absolutely. And Steph went ahead and I put myself through this. Steph said, Tom just said Mayor is okay. I'm taping this whole show. There were other parts where we were talking about stuff on some other things. So if he's taping the whole show, he's getting the whole thing. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Let me see if there's anything else on here. Shawnee just said it's also cool when they go off and do their own stuff and they come back to BDI for a guest appearance. And that is very true.
Sure. Yeah, that happens. That happens all the time. I mean, it's freelance. So, we're not locking these guys down. They can go do whatever they want, however they want to do it. And some of them get super busy and we don't see them for a year, and then they come back and it's like, pop, there's Shannon Mayer again. And his stuff sells out and it's great. And then, he goes back to doing other stuff and we'll see him again in a year. Happens. Yeah.
Oh, Doug wants to know about there's another one that popped up there. There we go. Critter statue update.
There's no update. We have a mock-up. There are no plans to put it into production right now. It takes quite a bit to do that. Even if we did a Kickstarter for it, you still have to be talking about making a lot of units to keep a price down. And without Comic Cons and stuff to sell them, it becomes an impossibility, because we just have, a storeroom full of these things. Even if we sold a couple hundred on a Kickstarter, we'd still have another 800 units, because we probably have to make 1,000. So we have to have an outlet for those other units in order to get it done. So it takes a lot of planning to, have that as an option. It's there. I mean, we have the mock-up. It can be translated into all kinds of things as it stands. So when we're ready to go, we'll go.
And that's the best way to do it, is go ahead and wait until you've got everything set up on there, because you don't want to get stuck with things that are just going to sit there. And then I'm not going to say they're going to get forgotten, but some people just can't get those at the time. So,
well, selling 1,000 units of anything that's difficult, unless
right.
You have mass retail support, or a way to get them to cons and stuff, like I said, to get them into the hands of other people. It's very difficult to sell that many units. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we do what we do at such short print run, because we know 200, 300, 400, we can move through that. But we're not doing mass market publishing anymore. So for now, everything is going to be between 100 and 200 copies for the most part. And that's where we're at.
Smithers says he will buy half.
I mean, send me the contract, put that in writing, and that's fine. We can make that happen. If you want to invest in the critter statue market, then we can make that happen.
I'm telling you, watching him and Kiesel and Rob go at it in there sometimes is hilarious, especially with that voodoo internet that Smithers has.
I'm telling you.
There are times whenever I think it's a lag on my part, and everyone else is the same way, because he'll go ahead and claim by name. You haven't even shown the picture up on the screen, and it's done.
I will say that sometimes these guys catch a glimpse, like I'm moving the book to the camera, and it'll just be like, whoop, and they'll see it, and they'll be like, oh crap, Tom's got the thing. And then as soon as they hear the price, it's, pop. So there are some sneaky tricks that are sometimes occur. or if I'm holding it off camera, and it's like, okay, so guys, I've got this thing, and it's going to be they hear it from the hints. They know from the hints. And so they're like, yeah, okay, Tom's got the thing and I want it. So I'm going to get on it before anyone even sees it. That happened. In fact, I was on Jesse James' show last week, and he had something on the pile that he was drawing off of, and he had stopped for a second, and I saw it sitting there, and there was no title. It was just the bottom, but I recognized it. And before he even lifted it, I was like, I want
it. And what's funny is just this past Doghouse, there was a situation where you had mentioned something in a box and they wouldn't let it go. So finally you were like, I can show you, but you're not gonna be able to buy it. Now, I don't collect all of it because I can't financially as well.
Yeah,
Plus
sure.
I'm still trying to catch up on everything. But your hardcore collectors, like some of the guys we were talking about, where I could feel their pain through the internet, because you were basically like, you can see it, but you can't get it.
Yeah.
And they were going nuts with that. So be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, it's a bunch of stuff that's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. So it was a big stack of metal covers that we only make 10 of to begin with. And there's all kinds of stuff in there that, basically is out the door. So there's nothing I can do. I keep one of everything for the archive. So that's it. That's it, man.
It looks like Russell has a marketing tactic for you on the critters. Do the 500 critters join together into one giant critter bot?
It is. Now, I'm assuming, that's a Voltron reference, of course, but I'm assuming, Russell, that you have seen the movie Critters, and specifically Critters 2, where all of the critters turn into a giant ball of critters and just roll over people and, and gnaw on them as they roll through town. So, there's that too.
Hey, as long as they're paying for 500 of them, you don't care if they make a giant ball of that.
do whatever you want. When Pops came out with Sharknadoes a number of years ago, they actually made a Sharknado pop. Like, I don't collect Pops. I think they're crappy. But the Sharknadoes were cool. it was just this little dude, shark dude, and there's like this swirling blue stuff around him. I was like, that's fucking awesome. So I wanted to go buy a case of Sharknadoes so I could open them up and just glue them together so I could have, a Sharknado statue of Sharknadoes. But they sold out so fast that I couldn't, there was no way for me to get quantity. So I got my two, and that's all I have.
And then they even came out with people wearing the cosplays doing that as well, which was great.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that several times, and they go out there and they'll be walking around, and all of a sudden they'll catch somebody eyeing, what they're looking at, and they'll just start spinning around in a circle a little bit. And yeah, it's epic.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, they drained that swamp, man. Holy cow, that franchise is dead. But good on them. What the hell? Run it, man. Make it happen.
It's definitely one of those that you can say you didn't watch it, but at some point, some way, somehow you caught a glimpse, and it's like a train wreck. You just can't look away.
I saw the first one and I liked it. I was like, this is dumb, but this is fun. And then the second one came out, which is when the Pops came out, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's go. And I was like, okay, this is terrible. And then the third one came out, and I was like, no, it's over now. It's done. And then they did two more and I did not see 4 or 5. I was like, nope, 3, I'm out. That's it. You've reached the bottom of my barrel. You can keep looking for more bottom, but you found my end. So, but again, good on you. Do what you want to do. And that's my whole point with creating, man, is listen, at some point, somebody came in and pitched the idea of what if we had a tornado and there were sharks in it? Like that was the idea. And some movie company was like, yeah, why don't we do that? So, and now there's like zombie tidal wave and all kinds of nonsense. Schlock will still sell. You just have to have the marketing behind it. This is B movie time. I mean, B movies were huge back in the day. All the crazy, all goofy monster movies and stuff, giant grasshoppers and crap. People like that stuff. It's fun. And I think that's why Princesses versus Zombies work, because it's just clearly just going to be a fun, weird B movie thing. It's not taking itself seriously. It's not trying to be a real movie. It's not trying to be some, hyper PC thing for the day. It's just fun nonsense with princesses and, flesh-eating zombies. So exactly. I think that's basically what it is. Princesses versus Zombies is my Sharknado.
That's one way. Okay, but you could hashtag that one too. See, we're coming up with all kinds of hashtags. Now, you bringing up about the monsters, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up because I've been holding back on it. Why Godzilla? Why is that your favorite?
Why Godzilla? Why not Godzilla? That's why Godzilla. You know what? I'm told that there are no dumb questions, but you might have found the one. Godzilla was something that just I stumbled across when I was a kid. I mean, a lot of things, what you like as a person depends a lot upon when you actually are exposed to it. So the younger you're exposed to it, the more connected you will be to it. If you right now, as a 40-year-old dude, went back and was like, okay, I'm going to watch a Godzilla movie from the 60s, you might not have the reaction that you would have had when you were 8. Right. Because you either kind of get it or you don't. You either kind of just buy into the fun or you don't. It's like people that haven't really seen Star Wars. It's like there's no reason for you to watch Star Wars now because you're 40 and you haven't seen it until now, and it will have no meaning to you. It's all hype. So, for me, I saw Godzilla when I was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old. And I mean, I was a dinosaur kid and, all of that. So seeing fire breathing dinosaurs and flying dragons, I was like, yeah, I'm in. I mean, the first movie I ever saw, I think the first Godzilla movie I ever saw was Godzilla on Monster Island. It had 4 freaking monsters. It had alien cockroaches. It had comic books in it. I was like, well, it doesn't get better than this, right? So, that was it. I was in. And then that got me into comics because I found a Godzilla comic book and, away we went.
And you showed one of your figures that had come in and it was huge. Rodan, I believe.
Yeah, they're gigantic. They're ridiculous. Yeah. They're ridiculous.
And you were beaming. I mean, you had a smile from ear to ear, and it was just like Christmas time at that point. And of course, everybody was like, well, let us see it. Just open it up. And you're like, no.
Yeah, those are, my buying habits in general have kind of changed, but my toy buying habits specifically have gone from I got to have everything to I just kind of want the really, really good stuff. And unfortunately, the really, really good stuff is really, really expensive. So, I don't get many of these things very often. I mean, if I get like 1 or 2 a year, they're going to run me a couple, $200-$300. So I can't just be out there like, give me all of it, man. So these things, they're called X Plus, and they're really big and they're really detailed. What's cool is they're really designed and sculpted to be just like the suits. So they're not just like, let's make a Godzilla and we'll make it our own face or whatever. Like they're made to look like straight out of the movies. Nice. And that's what I really love about them is the detail on them and the total pure love of the suit. Even if the suit's weird, that's what's so great about these things, and that's what I've been loving. And the other ones that I buy are called SH Monster Arts, and they do all kinds of superhero toys and stuff too, super articulated and really tons of great detail. But they're like, you know, they're like this big. They're like 6-8 inches, but they're hyper detail sculpts, and you can move them around and stuff. And so I get some of those as well. But it's like Transformers. I don't really buy Transformers except for masterpieces, because they've blown my mind. So. But again, they're like $100 a shot. So the collection is small, but it is beautiful.
And that is cool. I mean, you've kind of shown us some of your comic collection, that was fun like a couple of weeks ago, because we were able to go through. You were not just pulling out and saying that's a great cover. That's a great cover. You were actually naming artists. You were naming what was going on in the book. You were naming how you came about getting that book, how you actually want the rest of that particular run. You were actually giving story to it. It might be pretty cool to actually have one of those with your Godzilla stuff, once in a while.
Well, except that most of it's in boxes in the basement because, since my divorce, I've been bouncing around from East Coast to West Coast, so I don't have it all out. But yeah, man, I mean, I know comics. I mean, that's. I'm not like the grand poobah of comics, but I know what I know, especially from what I collect. I've been in the industry at every single level, from a reader to a collector to retailer to owning a store to publishing. I've been at every level except for distribution. And even then, I really am in distribution now because I'm distributing my own work. So to some level, I've been at it in every level. But I mean, I grew up with comics. I mean, late 70s, early 80s. I mean, it was comics, man. And I knew the books, I knew the artists, I knew all that stuff. And so I have no problem talking about comic. And what's interesting is there's stuff that I don't even know that I know. But then, like when I'm at Jesse's place and we're doing comics and things are coming out, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's got like Art Adams stuff in it. It's just like somehow it just goes whoop, right to the front. So there's all kinds of crap in here. It's just nothing connects until I have a visual to like, oh yeah, remember when Ron Lim did that? And I'm like, how do I know what Ron Lim did with Silver Surfer on issue 42? But somehow I know.
Not that that's a bad thing, because it's actually fun to kind of pick around and be able to. I mean, you were actually just pulling out random issues, going, well, this is what happened here, and this is what happened here, and it was interesting because it shows your love for the industry in that. And it wasn't necessarily, there were a lot of mainstreams that were in there, but it was back at the older mainstreams that you were looking at.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was a Marvel and DC guy back in the day. Absolutely. Well, back in the day, that's really all there was until like the 80s when the indie boom kind of kicked on. I mean, there was definitely stuff like in the 50s and 60s that were like, war comics and all that kind of thing, but I was never into that. I was a superhero guy. So I still have my superhero stuff, but I've gotten into indie stuff. I've got kaiju stuff. I've got whatever. It's an eclectic mix. It's not hyper crazy weird, but it is, there's Wonder Woman, there's Transformers, there's Son of Satan. I mean, figure it out. Oh yeah, you're kind of all over the place. I noticed that, and then bringing up about the Indiana Jones, and you wanted to get that taken care of and get your full run on there. And then, as I understand it, you were able to finally get that too. I need one issue. Yeah, I need one issue. Okay. I need the last issue, which, as it turns out, how the hell do I know this? Because I never had the books. It was done by Steve Ditko. Good Lord, there's a Steve Ditko issue for Indiana Jones, and it runs about $10. I mean, it's not going to break me, but I was kind of surprised because I was buying all the others for like $3. And then they were like, oh yeah, this one's like $10, $15 because Steve Ditko did it. I was like, well, that's pretty damn cool. And so I don't have it yet, but I'm watching some eBay stuff, and who knows, it might show up on Comic Book Shopping Network on one of these guys' shows, because I've been buying from them too. They a piece here, a piece there. X Factor. I'm piecing together all my old X Factor issues. Still believe that it is the greatest launched series from the 80s, like period. I don't care whatever else came in the 80s. X Factor was the best new launch for the 80s. It was an amazing book. So
I will have to get with you on that after the show, actually, because I have a ton of those. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to see what you get into and what actually fuels your passion for doing what you're doing. And it's not necessarily just this right here. That is not what fuels you on that. It's the passion for the books, the industry, for what's coming up new, for new artists, new blood that's coming up, and for the fans. I mean, you can definitely see that.
Yeah. I mean, I got to pay my bills, but there's no gouging over here. I'm not trying to overwhelm anybody. I'm not trying to break pocketbooks. I'm not trying to buy a boat over here. I mean, I'm just selling comics and trying to kind of rebuild everything to where it was, and then take steps forward and make it a little bit better. Like we said, doing that like Big Dog Con or whatever, and just kind of doing some outside the box things. But the stuff that's working is working, and so we focus on that, and that's how you level up. I mean, that's how you take your next steps in whatever business that you're doing.
Exactly. Now, Celeste actually said, I'm a completist and I'll never complete Critter or Penny or Oz.
Critter will probably be your easiest completion because there's not as much as far as the variants go. Oz is going to be tough just because it goes into Oz collections and it doesn't come out. Penny will be tough because the prices are going astronomical. So yes, but if you wanted to focus on one and knock it out, Critter would be the one, because there isn't as much. And because we don't do, like nude and super sexy covers on that, the prices have not reached crazy levels yet. So you can still get a lot of it for like $10-15, even on the comic shopping, on the Big Dog Show House, the Doghouse Show. You'll get stuff for like $8-10 in a lot of those cases. And sometimes we have low grade stuff. So if you don't mind if it's low grade, you might get it for like $5. It might have some dings and stuff on it, but at least you'll have it. So depending on, there's completionists who just want one of everything. And then there's the completionists who want like perfect one of everything. So it just kind of depends on how you want to tackle it.
But if that's the case, and say in Celeste's case, she wanted to figure out a way to how to go ahead and get Critter and everything, she can go to the show, of course, and see things that are offered on there, but she could also message you if need be and kind of say, hey, I'm looking forward to this. Do you have them, or do you know where I can possibly locate them?
Yeah, I mean, most of what we have left is on the website. The reality, though, is that a lot of these books are 10 years old now. So if we have any, they might pop up randomly on the show. Like, oh my God, here's like this weird Nii cover from, year one. We have one of them. Here it is. Others we've got 10 or 12 of left, depending on what the cover is. So the website is always step one, because we try and keep pricing realistic, based on what we have, based on quantity, based on what the cover is. But like I said, we are at that point where you're talking about books that are a decade old. So a lot of it is just difficult to find because it's in people's collections, and there's only 200 of them. So unless they decide to sell the collection, it's gone.
And I definitely don't see that many books going up on eBay and other platforms that are BDI. There are some that are some of maybe the newer ones, but the older stuff definitely is not up there. And I see a lot of people that actually purchase this and they keep it. They don't resell.
Yeah, when you see Big Dog stuff, it's usually either the A or B covers, because they were easier. Because like, again, there's 3,000 of them, so they're easier to get. But even those, I mean, you're still going to be paying like $5 a shot, as opposed to the $3 cover price, plus shipping and all that. So that's what you will see more often than not. But even there's pieces that, number one, are very expensive. They just have found an audience and they have very expensive, or they're just the ones that everybody kind of seems to have, and they're still missing. There are gaps that you just rarely see. And when those pieces do come in and they do land on eBay, and it does happen, the prices are, through the roof. So you kind of have to get lucky and hope you find somebody that doesn't know what they have, that you can kind of yoink, I'll take that for $10. Yay. And that happens too, because there are definitely people that don't know what they have, but a lot of times that stuff goes on auction. And so it's there for a week, and it gives the collectors a chance to find it and get it, versus if it's just to buy it now for $5 and you can pounce on it. So,
And that is very true, because actually I have picked up, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of them out of dollar bins, and I was more than happy with that.
It happens. It happens. I've had stories. People have told me they've gone to comic book stores and they're like, "Hey, I'm digging through these old bins and there's stuff in there." I'm like, "Dude, buy like all of it," because you know, that's what I do.
Exactly.
I've been to dollar. I found an Oz #1 Nei cover in a dollar bin. I was like, "Are you kidding?" And I took it out, and you know, I mean, it's a $10 book, easy. In moderate grade, it's a $10 book, and they just didn't do their homework, and it was just in there. So it's like, okay, I'll take it.
Well, it's definitely fine. It's a lot of fun finding those kind of things in the wild, as opposed to just going ahead and purchasing straight out, if you can get away with it, because it just seems more like you're getting away with something almost.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I found a Penny for Your Soul 1 trade paperback in a $5 box, and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, "You have any more of these anywhere? Like, I'll take whatever you have." And he's like, "No, that's it." I was like, "Okay, good enough. I'll take it." So yeah, you're talking about a near $100 book in the $5 box.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
So it can't be done. I mean,
once
the cons start again, guys, I mean, it's worth your time to dig a little, but it's rare that you find our stuff in cheap boxes because our print runs are so low. So it is rare, but it does happen.
And again, if you find people that they're heavy on the mainstream stuff and they've got just a little bit of indie stuff, definitely dig through that indie stuff. You never know what you're going to find in there.
For sure. Yeah. Whether it's big dog stuff or something else. Absolutely.
Well, Smithers did say on here one thing that we see a lot of him doing on the Doghouse, which is claim.
What are you claiming? Kylo Ren cup? Not for sale. Not for sale.
I don't remember which part it was that he was claiming on there, but we see a lot of that going on. And that actually kind of is a great tie-in to, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, if you want to go ahead and give Audible on here on where we can reach you, where we can find you, and definitely the Kickstarter as well, which I will go ahead and put the link up on the screen while you're talking about it.
Cool. So yeah, Princesses versus Zombies is live. We're in our first week. We have 19 days left. There's plenty of time to get involved, but there are reward levels that are sold out already and getting close to selling out. So please don't wait. We already have 400 backers and stuff is selling out. There's the link for you. Click the link, go make a pledge. Twitter and Instagram is BDI Comics. Super easy. If you're here on Facebook and you just want to stay on Facebook, go find us, Big Dog Inc. There's a fan page. Go find me. You can friend me up too. And then the key, though, is Comic Book Shopping Network, CBSN, the group, not the page. There's a page. Don't go there. Go to the group. The group is filled with comic book retailers and publishers. And I do my show every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, live on the group.
And that is where we can all find him. I did go ahead and connect these links to the description of the video. So if you want to go back and click directly on there, you are able to do that. But I'm going to tell you right now, get on the Kickstarter if you have not gotten on there. If you have gotten on there and you've gotten your stuff, that is good, great, and wonderful. Hit that share button. You know how serious we are about hitting that share button, not just on here, but on everything, because everybody needs to go ahead and get that unity on there. But find somebody else who may be interested in it, because there's plenty of people who definitely would be. And just keep sharing it out there, getting more exposure on it. And the more we get on it, the more people we can get on there, we can start breaking some serious records at that point.
That's right. Do your social media duty. Click that share, click that like. Also realize that the heart creates a better algorithm than the thumbs up. So if you want to really push the algorithm, go to the heart, all that dumb stuff. It all matters. It all matters, guys. It's not just pure sales. Everything that you guys do as far as liking and sharing and commenting, all of that pushes the algorithm and lets our posts get wider visual.
Exactly. And as well, if you like this video, if you'll throw a heart on there as well, same thing he's talking about. That doesn't mean I have to buy you flowers. You have to buy me flowers or anything. It just means we're going ahead and trying to push this up there to get more exposure on it.
Right. That's it.
But I definitely thank you for being on here, Tom. I have greatly enjoyed having you on here. I hope to have you on again. Maybe whenever it gets time to go ahead and close out the Kickstarter, maybe I can get you back on. We could talk again, possibly.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. I have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed everyone else here. Let me go ahead and pull Tom off right here for the evening, and I will do my closing statements here. Thank you very much. All right. So Tom Hutchison was on here. We were able to do the interview. We were able to talk about a lot of things, go through a lot of information, have a lot of fun. I always do a closing statement. I always have a closing statement that has some kind of a synopsis to what was going on. And this one, I'm going to go ahead and base it on thinking outside of the box. With everything that's going on, there's a lot of information that's going out there about how to go ahead and improve yourself, how to go ahead and get back to normal, how to go ahead and make this work the right way. Well, what if you start thinking outside of the box? What if you go ahead and just put yourself ahead and say, I'm going to throw caution to the wind on this one, and we're going to try something for once. But right now, there's a lot of people that are at home and have nothing better to do than to go ahead and look at everything, which is good, great, and wonderful. The world will pick back up to where we can actually go back and start doing some form of jobs or getting outside or something like that, but the internet will still be here. So what we do right now is setting a foundation for what's going on. So think outside the box, make sure that you go ahead and try some different things, maybe try some different characters you want to try, or some new writing techniques or books that you haven't picked up. Try something new, think outside the box, pass that information to everyone else. Thoughts to keep up on there. Just something to go ahead and keep in mind as you go along throughout this crazy world, even after the current events that are going on. This is Demon Phil, Comics and More New Jersey, thanking every one of you for being here this evening. Keep it indie, y'all.